Hey guys, welcome to the Markcast. Reed here. Here we are. Exciting times today. This might be the most exciting post UFL weekend recap we have. I'll get to that in a minute here. We're going to be giving away some free tickets today to the UFL Championship game. I'll give you guys all the details of that. We are waiting. Andrew Murray fighting traffic on his way home has the link. He will join when he can, but we have a lot to get to here today before we get to Andy. Give me your comments now if we need to pad a little bit. Sometimes it's like 2 minutes into the show. Sometimes it's like half an hour into the show, but we will get Andy here momentarily. Lots of people joining, filling you guys in on all of this stuff today. First off, big episode coming up Friday. Got everything confirmed. Talking with Dan Kaplan, formerly of The Athletic, now with Awful Announcing, freelancing. Dan wrote an article last week talking about, is the UFL doing enough to survive into season 2? Had a lot of good quotes. Friend of the show, Eric Galco, all of that. We'll get Dan's thoughts. We talked with Dan. I've talked with him every season about, the XFL and the USFL and all that stuff. So it'll be good to catch up with Dan. It is the UFL going to survive the Spring League curse? And then Pat Ruffino coming on. Haven't had Pat on the show proper here, I think, the whole season. Pat's been busy working and doing his own channel over at Analyze and Educate. We'll get Pat on. We'll do a full UFL preview here on Friday, playoff preview heading into the weekend. Little windy here. Hope it's okay. Finally, it was raining all day. Got sunny here. And then for you CFL fans, I see Jenna here checking in. Yes, the new Red Blacks uniforms look good. I think the Saskatchewan Roughrider alternate football uniform looks good. We will be doing a live. It's already the event channel. The event page is already on the channel. We'll be doing a live CFL pregame show Thursday, June 6th, before the kickoff. A game is at 5:30 Pacific, Montreal Alouettes at Winnipeg. We will be having the Professor Andrew Murray joining us. Jason over with Hussey's Huddle will be joining us. Tim and Cliffy with the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. And then I think Evan will be on as well. We're just trying to figure out with Evan's schedule. But I know Evan wants to be a part of that. And then we're trying to figure out, it's a lot to do 21 weeks plus playoffs, CFL post-game recaps on Mondays, but we'll see. Jason seems excited for that, so we will do our best here. But CFL stuff coming Thursday, and then, like I said, Dan Kaplan, Pat Ruffino for Friday's show. So subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here, and you will want to be for all of this stuff. So Chris is here in the chat. A couple of things here. So first and foremost, the tickets that were won, the UFL Championship tickets, did the big reveal last week on the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That listener is unable to attend. So I said, well, why did you submit? So scheduling conflicts. So those tickets are still available. I will probably post tomorrow how you can win those. We do what we can here. The Brandon Silvers jersey. If you are the winner of that, if you submitted to be the Brandon Silvers jersey winner, that jersey has not been claimed. So you have till Thursday when I record to claim that. So if you are one of the people that went on to get the Brandon Silvers jersey, make sure you do that, and then we will do the UFL tickets. But Chris Tisdale here, here's his comment at least anyway. Saturday is over for the Defenders. Chris is a rock star listener, watcher, viewer of the program. Chris has donated an additional 2 tickets to the UFL Championship game. So if you are wanting to go, this is your first opportunity. We are going to raffle these off at the end of the stream today. Must be present on the stream to win. So let's keep that YouTube watch hour, watch time up here. We're going to do it the last thing today. So must be on the stream to win. Here's the tickets here. We have section 113, row F, good seats here, seats 11 and 12. These are coming from Chris. Chris is, in the chat. He's on YouTube. Give Chris a dab. Follow him on Twitter, all that stuff. These are from Chris. I will give you more details about how you want to be signed up for this once Andy gets on. But spoiler alert, you want to be subscribed. And then we will be giving bonus opportunities if you want to give a super chat into the chat, or if you want to join the channel today, 99 cents a month, or you can give a super chat. That will give you an extra option. I will give you more details here. You can subscribe, do all that stuff right now. We'll give you more details. Fill all that in at the end. Yes. So we have foosball. Brandon Silvers is a legend. Yes. You'll want to be a part of that. But like I said, we'll do that at the end of the show today. Philip, we'll talk about that through all of that with the supplemental draft. Abdul here checking in. Give me some comments here. We'll pad while Andy is coming on here. Yes, can't wait for the interview with Dan. James checking in here. Andy did a great job last week how to fix the UFL. I hope they are paying attention. I will say this. I had a comment yesterday, and there were lots of everything over the weekend with the DC Defenders. 12,000 and change attendance, and I had tweeted out like, boy, that's almost twice Birmingham, and Birmingham's in the playoffs. DC isn't in the is in the playoffs. Renegades aren't. Obviously got a lot of kerfuffles. And then I saw the media availability this week for the Stallions, and there's like 2 people available, and I had put out. Like that's a really easy way, in my opinion, if you're the Birmingham staff, like let's get some more remote. Let's get some more media availability here. It's the last home game at Protective. We're in the playoffs. We're hosting all that stuff. Just thought that was surprising. The Brahmas media availability came out today. Much more impressive, like 8 or 9, all the coaches and the coordinators, and we got players, and we have open media availability. But I just thought that was odd that we talk about Birmingham a lot on here. We have a lot of all that stuff. That's little stuff you can do. Like, hey, let's offer the media in Birmingham an opportunity. Can we fly some people in early? At least do the remote stuff. So I thought that was interesting. So hopefully they're listening. I can tell you sometimes sounds like they are listening, but yes, I think there's lots more that can be done here. But yes, get subscribed to the channel here. Get ready for that. Let's do some more comments, and then we got TV ratings, attendance here to buy this over for Andy to get on. Jenna checking in. Good evening from Southern California. Hopefully we'll win the tickets this go around. Tanner, get subscribed, join the channel, get a super chat ready to go here, but we'll do all that. BTA caught is a lot. Yeah, really was hoping for a Alamo Dome playoffs, playoff situation. I'm not so lucky. I think the Battle Dome will be rocking. Very excited to be there. We're literally under 2 weeks away here. We'll be in St. Louis for the UFL championship game. I know Andy's going to be a part of that. I know Anthony Miller's going to be on there. I know Pat's going to be a part of that. Max, let's see. You gotta submit. You can give it to anyone you want. You can give it to you give it to Mike Mitchell. You can give it to anyone that wants. As I zoom on my thing too far here. Philip here, Houston checking in. Appreciate that. Yeah, Tanner, the elf stuff, it's tough. And especially now, work schedule, CFL is hard enough kind of with my work schedule ramping up here in the summer. I'm very excited that Anthony Miller, he was on the call last weekend. Got to see a lot of those clips posted online. I know a friend of the show, Emery Hunt's going to be doing that. Maybe we can get them on to do a couple of check-ins, but I do not, never been qualified enough to do, week by week kind of commentary of that. But they're doing a tremendous job. And I think if we had gone back a couple years and, picked the wrong league to cover here with fan control football and all that stuff. Maybe we could have gotten on the elf thing and that would have worked out. Christine, not going to comment too much tonight. Hopefully have wifey duties to get to. That's fine. But just as time matters here, you get part of the giveaway. And also, yeah, CFL for free, CBS Sports Network. If you're on Fubo, if you're on YouTube TV, that's on there. Most of the games during the summer are on CFLplus.ca. You can Google that. Those are all free. You can watch it from a phone, a laptop. You can AirPlay it to a TV, plug it in. That's usually what I do. I usually just watch it on the laptop. You can plug it in HDMI cable as well. I know that's how some people get around like MLB blackouts and stuff like that, but they're all free on there. Plug it in, check it out. And no, it should be exciting. Yeah, Thursday will be a really good game. The defending champs in Montreal Alouettes against, the team. It's a Grey Cup rematch at Winnipeg. Very excited for that. Crypto checking in here. Appreciate you, Chris. We certainly do appreciate Chris on that. Lots of comments here. Lots of comments as I continue to break my channel here. Pat's checking in. I know if you want to watch, maybe they can start uploading CFL games as well. We'll see how that works out. That would be a fun experiment. Let's start uploading CFL games to YouTube and see if that works out. Lauren Sepial checking in here. Yes, Lauren would love to win. Lots of stuff of all of that. Yes, and then we're talking, 50 Cent, BC Place sold out for the BC Lions home opener. That's the Saturday before the UFL championship game. And then tickets on sale today for the Grey Cup. Jonas Brothers announced for that. I said that I am not in the demographic to watch the Jonas Brothers, so that's probably a good signing for the league to get some of those younger players in there. Lauren, or younger fans in there. Lauren Panthers are on the hunt. Appreciate that. Well, Christina, wifey duties took about 6 minutes here. Maybe That's good. Well, Christina's back with all that stuff. Yeah, foosball. Check it out. Be with the channel. We'll give all the details here Thursday. Like and subscribe. We're going to do a full season breakdown. Tim and Cliffy know the Alouettes inside and out. Jason follows all of that stuff, and then we get Evan on. Andy's, I know, is already taking notes on all that stuff, so it should be exciting. I think we do a pretty damn good job with CFL coverage on here from stateside, and like I said, appreciate Jason kind of carrying the load with a lot of that stuff during the season here. There we go. Pat's getting on the board, getting on for the win the championship game ticket. So, all right, enough of that right now. Let's get the TV ratings here while we wait for Andy. Give me guys thoughts on all this stuff as we pull up all this stuff. Came in here, UFL Week 10 rating Saturday, 754,000 on ESPN, the Michigan Birmingham game that, no one showed up for, even though it meant a lot. In terms of getting the home field advantage, sort of, even though Michigan couldn't play at Ford Field anyway. So we appreciate that. 754,000 for that. San Antonio, St. Louis here, 836,000 on Fox, the 4 p.m. window on there. Sunday at noon, D.C., Arlington, D.C. hosting at 893,000. And then Houston, Memphis here. That was the Toilet Bowl. I saw it called the Potty Bowl, I think. A wonderful brand. That's a great way to get YouTube views. Branding something, the Potty Bowl. Houston, Memphis, 649,000. So, I will tell you, and talking with Mike today, I think the league wanted to give a little bit of a bump to that last game of the season here, giving the stakes away for now Memphis will get the number 1 draft pick here coming into the season here, going into the supplemental draft and all that stuff. It really didn't seem like for a long time anyone wanted to win that game. I was tracking that kind of off and on. We had a wedding show on Sunday. I thought, God, is it still 6-3 here? What's going on? But overall, I think you have to be thrilled with this week 10 here going in. I think Mike had on that one of the games peaked over the Potty Bowl game, I think, peaked over $1 million for that at one point in the later hours, a 1.147, I think, if I'm listening for all that stuff. So we'll be interested for that. And I want to talk about this, and I think this is a conversation for kind of another time once we get done with the season. So we saw a big bump this year, right? Prioritizing TV time slots, giving more Fox, giving more ABC. You see a lot of the Mike Mulvihills of the world, hey, everything's up 40%, 30%, all that. This is the season you're going to get that bump, right? You're never going to get that again next year. If anything, they'll be dropped just because season 1 to 2 novelties off of it. But you really got the big bump this year, prioritizing, giving the time slot. So I'll be curious to see kind of what that carries over into next year, because you're not going to have those big leaps, right? It's kind of like the Apple Silicon when they came out with the new MacBooks a couple years ago, and they got the huge jumping off of Intel that first year. And then ever since then, it's like incremental upgrades, just because that was the big kind of generational leap for that. So I'll be curious this year. I know in one of the tweets, Abdul had a good comment I had bookmarked. Like, are we going to see that continue into next year? And we'll see. I'll be curious with that, because obviously you got kind of the big bump right here. Christina, the Roughnecks come to St. Louis. I would be surprised if they're not. I know, obviously, Danny and The Rock were there. We had the pregame press conference with them before the Tyler game last year, and then they did the media stuff on the field, and we were part of all that, kind of sneaking in there. I was with Anthony Miller, and Anthony had the right pass, and I said, Anthony, I'm going to follow you in here. I see Andy checking in here. I think if he's a thumbs up, we'll get him pulled up, ready to go here. Andy looking very man in black here for the hour. How are you doing, sir?
Well, at least I don't blend into the background like I have a couple of times. So that's really all I'm trying to factor in here. So thank you for being so patient, everyone being so patient about it. Southern California traffic is not enviable. Do not try it.
It's great. Yeah, like I said, we're giving away 2 free tickets at the end of the stream today. I'll give you more details, all that, once Andy can start talking. We got the wheel. I have the here. Can I do this? I have the wheel ready to put in here to put our names in and everything. It'll be exciting. So we'll do a live drawing for all that stuff. Andy, we're talking ratings on all of this. The Toilet Bowl, 650,000. I know they tried to give some extra juice to that with the whole draft pick. Did that do anything for you? Right, Memphis gets the number 1 pick now moving forward, and then are we presuming the rest of the order will be given up by the season standings? Right, it's not like the Roughnecks get second pick, right?
I mean, for me, it's just thank God it's over. That's really the only thought I have towards that game. For me, I know it's important for the teams involved to get that first overall pick. And congratulations to Memphis, obviously. I think we all knew that John DeFilippo of the two coaches was the superior one in terms of his ability to try and manage what was happening this season. I know it didn't go well for him. Memphis had a lot of problems on offense and defense. And for me, it didn't really matter because Houston was just that much more worse. They did not really have any identity whatsoever on offense or defense this entire season. I know they led the league in interceptions, but really there wasn't much of a calling card for them on either side of the ball. And obviously, Curtis Johnson didn't really make much of a case for himself to stay on the team. I think that's a hard discussion to have with him afterwards. I know we've talked about it for weeks, but I just don't think it's going to really pan out well for him. But for me, it wasn't really so much about the game itself. It was just more of the implications of now what does Memphis do with this? And can they use that as a chip for next season? And can they use that as a way to generate interest for next season? Because let's be real, their attendance obviously was not enviable in any way, which we'll get into later. I will say, though, I'm not sure about you, but just hearing all those horns during the game was really interesting. It was almost like a CFL game in a way. There was a lot of – I thought I was watching a Montreal Alouettes home game, like how much blaring and horn blowing and all that in the background. It was really interesting. I don't know if I would employ that strategy again, but at least it made it seem louder than the number of people would indicate that it should be. So I'll give them credit for that.
In terms of, and this again, we'll get into this off season, but like Coach Flip sticks around here, right? I mean, you get rid of the coach, and then hey, you got like to me, this isn't like we're not Caleb Williams here. I mean, it's the first pick of the UFL supplemental draft that's coming, or whatever they want to call it, college. I had a player DM me today, like, hey, do you know anything about that? Like, I mean, it's not a game, it's not a generational changing pick here, but I mean, do you think they get rid of the coach and they're like, or do you think Coach Flip is around here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have to think that they're going to retain Coach DeFilippo. He just seemed like he was into what was happening on the field. I mean, I remember there was a play where Vinny Papali ran to the sideline. He got a first down, and as he's running off the sideline, there's DeFilippo right there congratulating him and, slap him on the shoulder. Like, I think he really appreciated his time, has appreciated his time in the league, and I think he deserves another shot. To me, there were a lot more problems with this team, the roster, namely, and obviously the injuries didn't help as well. It could be a lot better of a situation for him. I think that's something that they have to consider going forward. So for me, really wasn't much of a DeFilippo issue. I do think it needs to be rectified in terms of what do they put in front of them, what kind of resources they give him going forward. So for me, I think he deserves at least another shot.
A couple questions here, Tanner. Do you think Memphis will stay with Cookus if he still plays or move on? Poor dude needs some help. Yeah, I mean, does Case come back for this again? Is Case like, sign me up?
I mean, that's a twofold issue. One, it is the offensive line, but also Case Cookus takes a lot of hits. He does not know how to get rid of the ball. He needs to be coached up in terms of getting rid of the ball. I think they need to get a proper quarterbacks coach to get in there and tell him, look, we can't have you taking these hits. You need to get this ball out fast. We just don't have the offensive linemen or the assets. You are not, you're not Trey Ford. You're not Adrian Martinez. You're not running out of this. You need to get the ball out of your hands. So I think for somebody in Case's case, they need to get somebody in there to be able to coach him up and tell him it's not worth it long term for him to be able to keep taking these hits because he's just getting beat up. I mean, he was saying on the sideline during the St. Louis game that he was having breathing trouble. Like, that's not good. I don't want that. Okay. I don't want that. Or actually may have been the Michigan game. Now I think about it. Actually, it was the Michigan Panthers game, but yeah, not just for him, but just for consistency purposes. The only thing that was really consistent about this team to me, I know David Davis was really good. Darius Victor tried his damnedest. I know he wasn't really the same on this team as he was with the Generals, but they tried to get the most out of him, but they just didn't have the offensive line in front of him to be able to use him as well as they should have.
Does he need to go to like the Tua Tagovailoa? Like we did the jujitsu so he could figure out how to fall and stuff properly. Like, I mean, does he? Yeah,
and get him Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle too. How about that?
Yeah. A couple things here about attendance and stuff. We'll get back up, then we'll move on to that stuff. No, we already did that one. Chad, viewership is pretty consistent throughout the year, which I thought was a plus. His viewership could have trended. I agree. I mean, looking at the ratings here, you know, this terrible Sunday night game here, still getting 600. Now, I don't know if that's what you want. I don't know if I want 650,000 watching that game, but like, I think this proves, like I said, I was saying before you got on, like, this is the year with the big jump, right? We're giving all the time slots. You're never going to get this sort of growth from year 1 to year 2, from year 2 to year 3. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's not possible.
Well, that's the thing. You get these isolated takes. I don't know if you saw it, but there was that one coach from one of the colleges who came on Sunday night and said, "I've just watched this Roughnecks game, and I'm watching this quarterback play, and it's horrendous." And he's isolating one singular play from
Yeah.
Nolan Henderson in this game that really has no implications. And this is a backup quarterback in a game between two teams that have won one game the entire season. And I just don't know what to say to people who want to isolate those certain singular plays. I tell them, go watch Release Perez, go watch Adrian McCarron, go watch Adrian Martinez, go watch somebody else, because I don't. You can take one play of any league. I could do that for the NFL. I could be like, look how terrible this league is, and I could show you a play from that Denver Broncos Indianapolis Colts game that was the bane of our existence 2 years ago on Thursday night, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. And you can take that play and isolate a play from that game and make it like you have to be consistent in your viewership. The problem is people are going to rag on these leagues because they see those isolated games. So, but follow those who really keep with it. And I think for me, this is good in terms of the numbers. I really think this is more consistent. The most it's consistent been since 2020, really. And so for the league, I think that's good. But again, as we talked about last week, how do we build upon that? I've already given a lot of my suggestions, but I think this is really encouraging. And I think this is something they need to build upon going into the offseason.
Well, and I'm curious to talk with Dan next week. And then if need be, I'm going to get Ben Fisher on as well with the Sports Business Journal, because like in my thought process all along is whatever the number is, because TV ratings and everything, it's been manufactured forever because we want them to be nebulous, because then the TV networks can charge the advertisers whatever they want. And I mean, I've told this story before, but when I worked in Bakersfield, they literally mailed out the journals, and we had the sweeps week, and we would go out, and it was the most salacious stories we could do to run promos on, because you wanted everybody to be thinking of KGET that week, whatever that the couple week period was for all that stuff. And so it's always been this inexact science, but I have to think that there's like 400,000 homes just on ABC or Fox or NBC or whatever all the time that they just factor in. And so then you get like the 600, like maybe that really only was 200,000 or I mean, obviously the people are watching, but I just think that there's a non-zero number of homes across that are just rated into these numbers. So like, yes, you're getting the boost this year because we don't have the FS1 and the ESPN2 games and all of that. But like, this might be consistent to next year. I'll just be curious, like you said, if there's any growth on that. I can see them running these back. I don't see another 40% increase on it.
I don't either, unless there's some drastic changes or there's, unless there's a Caitlin Clark-esque player that's suddenly going to show up in this league and massively improve viewership. But, I don't think that's really going to happen in at least the foreseeable future. And, everybody wants that, that golden ticket. They want that one player that gets everybody to start watching the sport. And that just you can't wish for that to happen. So you need to find alternative ways of creating that viewership. I think what I will say is I want to know, I wish there was a way that you can measure this, and it's really hard to analytically, but can you find the people who, besides bandwidth, as far as how long they're watching, because YouTube does that, can you find people that are seeking it out? And that's hard to say. Like, how can you tell, is this on at a bar that no one's really paying attention to, or is this actually being viewed by somebody actively at their home? Like how do you measure that? We don't have those kinds of ratings yet. That's the market and research that maybe needs to be looked into, is can you survey people? Like one thing I did like the XFL did last year was when you had the surveys that you submitted, I think sometimes they would ask through a newsletter on your email server, they would ask you, okay, well, how often do you watch? How many games do you watch? Do you watch casually? Do you watch seriously? I think you need to send things out like that. Can you send feelers to people? I know that'll be your core base, but like at least try doing that, and I think that's important.
It's interesting. Yeah, we're talking got a lot of Caitlin Clark in here. I mean, that's the thing with YouTube that like why McAfee was able to get such a deal with ESPN because everything is tracked on here. I know how many new people watch, how many old people watch, how many new subscribers watch, how long they watch, when they turned off, when they turned on, when this and so TV is such an antiquated beast in that, and that's why we pontificate over these ratings all the time. But like, I mean, the streaming when they finally get the ratings down, but see, like they don't want to, right? Because in the TV networks, like and I love Rod, right? Like I love Rod Peterson, and like they got sponsors on that show, and I'm like, God, what are these people paying for that? And what are they expecting in terms of because like you watch their YouTube traffic, and it's whatever, but I'm like, how many people are quote unquote watching that channel? Well, it's whatever number the Game Plus and them want to say, and there's no real way to track that. I'm always curious that where there's so much like it's 100% transparency on YouTube, and it's no transparency at all on that. And like this, like Lauren, this Hulu Live count for ratings, like they don't count streaming for that kind of stuff, and they're talking like, do they count the bars and sports bars? Like, probably not, right? I mean, there's all these different caveats to all that where, again, with the YouTube and all that, we get all that. Let's get attendance here because I want to get to the games because I want to make sure that we get enough talk about the football on here. But 7,000 here for Birmingham, 34, good showing increase for St. Louis here. You would expect with a the playoff spot on the line here. D.C. 13,000. I had commented on Twitter, basically double Birmingham for a meaningless game against the Renegades, and then Memphis was 6,000. We expect all that. I have a summary of all the ratings here now that we're done with the regular season. But any initial thoughts on that?
Look, that's quite a bang for Birmingham to finish with, isn't it? In a final regular season game where you're potentially going to win your USFL Conference Championship regular season. Yeah, fantastic there. Look, I think this is really great for DC to have these numbers at the end of the season. I think it was a fantastic matchup with Arlington. So great game to be treated to for the DC fans at the end of the season. I know they didn't win, but that was really something that showed to me is that DC fan base does care. They do. I think they're one of the really true form fan bases in the league. I really do. And I believe that, after the pandemic, I really believe that. We all did. I think that was clear in front. But everything else here, I mean, St. Louis, obviously, they're going to always turn up, and they increased a little bit over from last time. Birmingham, we got to talk about this. Look, I know you don't want to hear it, and I know I don't care if you have a profile picture with the flag, wearing a hat, and a pair of eyeballs that's telling me it doesn't matter. Guess what? It does. Because if you don't have attendance numbers, guess what the league's going to do? And I don't like to say that, but it's true. You have to hold this. You have to hold the markets accountable. I think the league needs to do a better job of appealing to these markets. Absolutely. I lined that out last week. Yeah. But if you don't start putting in numbers, things are going to happen, and it's not going to be pretty. And this does matter. Optically, it matters on TV. And I don't care if you think it doesn't matter in terms of, the number of people there, because you're saying, well, the TV money is where it is. It all matters. Every bit of it. The TV ratings matter, and people who show up matter. And it looks better on TV, and it looks better for the community, and it looks better for what you're trying to sell. Everything. It's all symbiotic. It all goes together. It all is working in tandem. If this is not here, if one thing's not here and the other thing's not here, like, this is all valuable, and this needs to be put into place. This has to be done. These leagues don't have the luxury that, the CFL does, for example. Like, I'll talk about this more on Thursday, but look, take the BC Lions, for example. They, attendance-wise, were not doing great for a long time. They had a hard time filling up that space, the dome, obviously. They had a really hard time filling that up, especially when they weren't playing well. They get a new owner, and I know I talked about last week, ownership maybe is not what's in the cards for this league, but just isolated example. Here comes Amar Doman, and he is putting just every little bit of piece that he can into getting people into that stadium. and they're pushing towards 50,000 in their season.
They're going to be
opener.
sold out. They're going to be sold
Yeah.
out in the season opener. They're going to sell out. BC Play is going to be sold out for that, and that's 3 years of really hard work and on the ground marketing of really going out into the community.
It really is. Yeah.
Working with the amateur football, engaging with them, engaging with. I mean, I see that all the time on Twitter. They're going to food banks. They're doing community outreach. They're having people come in. They're going to classes. They're going to schools. Like, I understand that you can't do all of that in the 10-week season, but yes, I completely co-sign with you.
I'm just saying, and I'm not saying they have the resources of the 10-week season or the time span or whatever, but do something to get more engagement, because you have to. If you're not going to get any increase in that engagement if you don't do something. And I just don't feel like that effort's being put in here. Okay. I really don't sometimes. And I want it to. I really do. But I just don't feel like it's there sometimes. And I want it to be there, because Birmingham deserves to have more fans at their stadium. They do. This is a fantastic team to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed watching the Birmingham Stallions. I sing their praises every week. But yet there's no people showing up. Why? There has to be more consideration to this. And it's a shame. It really is a shame that it's sub 10,000 at this point of the season, at this point in their existence, in the third year of them existing. And this is where we're at. I mean, this is less than half of the attendance that they had that first game we went to. This is not a good trend, and I don't like it. We'll see how many people show up for the game next week, but they're talking about pack protective. Like, one half of the stadium is not being pushed past. Like, we got to, like, one point, are we going to start stop being disillusioned and just understand what's going on? Like, there has to be more effort put in here. And I know it. Look, people think I want to keep ragging on Birmingham. I'm not trying to do it out of spite or trying to like take things away from them, because I do believe that this is a team that's really worth celebrating. I wish there were more people that were there celebrating.
I wish there was too.
I wish there was too. It's just not there. Yeah.
No, and like I said before you got on, it's just the media for this week going into the playoff game. It's Skip Holtz, and it's a defensive tackle available for media. If you are a Birmingham media person and you want to cover the team this week, that is your opportunity. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And like I said before you got on, San Antonio has like 8 or 9 different. They got people today, they got people tomorrow, they got people Thursday. They got I just don't understand how, if you're I would say the premier team of this league. I'll say that. I mean, Battlehawks are there too, but in terms of, play on the field, brand notoriety, it's 1A and 1B with that. And that's why it's so disappointing with Birmingham. And that you're going to I just don't understand that. I don't understand how that's like, okay, like that's our strategy going into this. Like, it's the last time you're going to be in Birmingham, because the championship game, like, you're not playing for the championship game to be like, this is the last time you're going to have with these fans for the season. You're going to come to St. Louis. Let's try. But I just don't understand that you're not. Oh, this is crazy.
If I were them, I mean, like you said, availability for players, I would make some of these players more available, especially those who are the most prominent on the team. I think about last year when McLeod Bethel-Thompson came down for his one stint for the New Orleans Breakers, and it was in the hub. It was in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So vividly remember the fact that Paul Woods, the writer, the Argos historian, living up in Canada, decided on his own dime to come down and talk to McLeod Bethel-Thompson about his time in the USFL and why he transitioned. He had no reason to do that.
No.
Like that, he did that on his own time and his own dime. There were CFL people that came down and wanted to watch CFL players in the league. Like, you got to figure out that there's cross promotionalism that can go on here, especially with in Adrian Martinez's case. I mean, every time that ESPN talks about him, they talk about his college days because they saw him in college. Tom Luganville saw him at Nebraska, at Kansas State. You can cross over to those people. You really can. And I think more of that reaching across the aisle needs to be done, instead of just pretending like, well, we're not going to make these people available. Those who want to find them will find them, and they'll find, back channeling and whatever. No, like, make them available. Make it a point of emphasis to be able to make these people available, and also make them have a relationship with those who maybe spent time with them in the past. Like, that, just to me, that disconnect just baffles me. It really does, because I think there's a lot of people who are worth celebrating in this league that
Mhm.
came from other leagues or came from colleges or came from different backgrounds. And there's just not that connection that's being made. And it really does baffle me.
Yeah. Abdul here, and we'll move on here. Imagine what Tennessee Birmingham wasn't good. Well, it makes you think about that. Just real quick with this, because I do think this is worth it. Like I said, we'll do a deep dive here, but just to get this up here, we'll do a deep dive like after the season because I want to get to the games here. Just to break it down here, UFL regular season average attendance ladder: St. Louis 34, D.C., San Antonio, Birmingham here, Arlington, Michigan, Houston, and Memphis here bottoming out. Just any general thoughts of that? Because it is interesting. Top three, and we rag on San Antonio a lot. There's been a lot of the W. Scott Baileys of the world, and when we got burned with the AAF and all that. But seeing it laid out here is pretty interesting. This is from UFL Center, and obviously the figure is tabulated from Mike Mitchell.
I mean, that's the thing. You do have to have that conversation about being burned by the AAF, right? Memphis and San Antonio are your two clear markers here. Memphis, the Express back in 2019 were pulling in 12, 13,000 people. And at that time, I'm watching that and thinking, good crowd, it could be better. I mean, that looks great now. I mean, You're talking about possibly top 4 in the league with that kind of numbers. And that's what they were expecting. Again, I know I've gone on and on about San Antonio. There's a myriad of reasons why maybe that's not, pulled through as much. But again, there doesn't seem to be that same level of camaraderie. I know, again, it's people who maybe say, well, this league's going to be gone. I know that residual effect is really hard to get rid of. Whether or not you know that the team folded because the league folded or because you thought they left, some casual people can't really discern between that, and that's why I really worry about Houston. Oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen with them when they go back to University of Houston Stadium. Are they going to pull those people back in there? I don't know. I think they got to put the people. I think they got to re-promote. They do. They're not just going to absorb all those people again. I think it's going to be similar numbers if they're not careful. So they've got to continue to put in the work. The Michigan one, the Panthers, I wish they had better attendance because I think it's a good team. Again, it's the same thing with the Birmingham thing. I think it's a good team. It's worth going to games for. And Ford Field is a nice field. It's a nice facility to go to, but it's like people just don't know what's going on in their area. And that's something that has to be addressed going forward. So, and the same goes for Arlington. We talked about that, last week as well. So for me, some of them it's you didn't know or promote enough. Others it's legislative historical battle where it's, well, we're fighting history against us. And other ones it's, well, I don't know if people know that we rebranded or moved across town. So it's a multi-pronged issue. That's really the problem. And the only two real consistent figures are the ones that never really changed their identities as teams and never really went fully away, which was DC and St. Louis. They've managed to hold strong for the last 4 years.
Last comments here, and then we get to the games. Mike said here, Michigan was late with ticket distribution. Yeah, but I mean, it's week 10 now. I mean, it's like I get the first couple weeks. It's week 10. It's week 10. Like, we got to get this going. And then the other thing here, Darren, I think attendance will be an issue until they get out into the community market. So I'm quit leaning on ratings as the standard. I agree, but I guess the UFL wants to be a TV product first and foremost. I don't think that is going to be the long time thing of that. So keep in mind, reminder here, be subscribed, like the video, and then like I said, join the channel or super chat here. You get an extra entry and all of this stuff, and then we'll give a couple details here in a minute how to get the giveaway for the 2 UFL championship game tickets. Andy, and these aren't the ones that are sitting by you. So this person, maybe that's more incentive. These are the previous. I don't think so. I always want to sit by the professor, but we have those to give away via Chris Tisdale. So like I said, give a super chat. Join the channel here, 99 cents a month. Be subscribed. We'll get all that. Andy, what game stood out to you this weekend? Because, to me, there was a couple really prodding games on here in terms of San Antonio and the Brahmas, and then kind of this toilet bowl at the end. What stood out to you?
I mean, one thing, all these are one-score games, which is a league you really want, right?
Yeah, let's do.
I mean, for me, look, the Panthers have the blueprint to beat the Stallions. They've lost by a combined 8 points in their 2 matchups. They know how to beat this Birmingham team. Birmingham is struggling on their offensive line. Adrian Martinez is getting chased down, and that's a big problem for them. kept getting in these situations where they're in second or third and long because Martinez gets sacked in long situations. They just don't seem to have the same magic on offense at the moment. I think they need to start leaning on the run game again. But Michigan had the clear blueprint, and it's almost ironic that on Sunday when they were doing awards, when Fox was handing out their awards to all the players, they named Jake Bates the most clutch player in the league, and he misses the game-winning field goal on Saturday. I know he had some incredible kicks this season, but you know, you might have wanted to recount your votes at the last minute. This Birmingham team is in serious trouble. I'm going to say that right now. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but they're in trouble. They need to figure some things out, or else Michigan's going to walk in there and upset them on Sunday. You know, they've got to be careful because last 2 weeks they've had breakdowns on the offensive line. Both defensive lines for the Panthers and the Brahmas completely beat them up front. They're having lapses in the secondary. You're having not only penalties, but you're also just letting these wide open touchdowns happen. I mean, Mariner gets behind the secondary. Etling kind of finds him in the back of the end zone. You're starting to have a lot of defensive breakdowns. I know we talked about John Chavis not being in there as the defensive coordinator because of his health issues, and it's really a shame. But they've got to figure something out. They got to regroup because they're really looking valuable for maybe the most they've looked really in the last 3 years. And they've got to start putting something together because they're not going to find themselves in St. Louis if they keep playing like this. Like Michigan's going to find a way to crack through. They've gotten closer and closer each time. And I mean, they led the game until that last drive, until Adrian Martinez put together a comeback drive and threw that touchdown to Jay Sternberger. But Birmingham was trailing most of this game, and Michigan had their number up front.
Is it the league kind of smartening up to Birmingham what they're doing? I mean, this has been forever here. Is it do you blame the defensive coordinator switch? I mean, where do you place the blame on Birmingham?
I do think that Michigan just knows how to play them really well because they played them. You know, they're in the conference. They played them twice. But I mean, this is something that we saw from San Antonio last week. I do think that there's tendencies that maybe Martinez, they finally started to key in on just getting to rush him up front. I mean, the guards have just been bullied up front. And that's the thing, you know, when you have a good pass rush up front, I think that does a lot to affect the quarterback. So for me, it's just been really good pass rushing, honestly. So for Birmingham, they've got to figure out something in the game plan. Now, again, you got this test run almost before the playoffs. So who knows? Maybe Michigan showed too much. We'll find out. That's what I was talking about last week. Did they tip their hand too much? But I think when it comes down to it, the most that you want out of your players is to play at the best time of the year. And for me, I think Michigan is just playing their best football. We'll see about their offense. I still think like they've got to continue to run the ball like they have been. And that's the other thing. You've still got this rotating quarterback thing, which is interesting. I say they just stick with one guy and keep going. I know Bryce Perkins didn't really throw any passes. He mostly just ran. But I think what you have to do as Michigan is you need to stay with one guy and lean on him for the entire game unless, you know, something happens to him. But this Michigan team really does have a clear identity and they have a clear message that they're coming after Birmingham.
I got a comment here. Foosball, I'll get your comment here at the end here because I think it's interesting to talk about. Okay, we're seeing the rematch next week. I think we'll dabble on a couple of the other games. We'll talk Brahmas, but like, I mean, what do you make? Like, would you be disappointed to have Panthers in the championship game here? I mean, it certainly would be. Tanner here wants, you know, is there going to be an upset? I mean, certainly would be. I think the biggest upset it would be quite surprising.
It would be. I mean, considering what they've done the last 3 years, I'd say it's less spicy because you obviously want Adrian Martinez to get an opportunity because I still believe he's going to win the MVP. So from a viewership perspective, I think Birmingham is a sexier matchup, of course. But you know, Michigan is a qualified enough team that they deserve to have a shot. If they play defense like the way they do and they run the ball like the way they do, then yes, you give them a shot. Do they have one of the best signal callers in the league? No, absolutely not. I don't even think they have in the top 5 because they've rotated through 4 different quarterbacks. But, you know, they're qualified. And I know on TV it's not going to look as great, but football is football. And I think if they can play well enough and they can play defense against Birmingham, they certainly can play that way against the Battlehawks. So they're absolutely deserving.
Yeah, it's just weird, like you said, they really have had no no actual quarterback play most of the season here to be ending up on all that stuff. Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk DC here? I'll get the slide pulled up, but DC taking care of business at home, right? Finally, getting a little bit of no, sorry, excuse me, I'm fever dream here. Renegades closing out the season with a win. What did you? I did see that with Bob Stoops getting teary-eyed in the locker room.
I mean, great final effort by the Renegades. The game-winning drive there, engineered by Luis Perez. He really put forth a fantastic season. I'm not sure if you saw those stats that Bob Stoops posted
Yeah.
on Twitter, but I mean, Perez basically led the league in almost every category. Had this been a better team, he would have had to been in the conversation for MVP. He was spectacular. This is by far his best season as a pro. We'll see what happens going forward. I mean, for the Arlington Renegades, this is the turning of a new chapter. We're talking about, you know, what venue are they playing in next year? You know, we're talking about what's the quarterback situation. Does Perez come back? Does Bob Stoops come back? This is a really big unknown for this team going forward. So for me, it's kind of a last hurrah. Maybe that's why Stoops perhaps got a little bit emotional.
Mm-hmm.
This team was good enough to be 500. Would they have been good enough to get in the playoffs? It would have been borderline, but this team was absolutely not the record that they show. I just think their defense had too many lapses, and their special teams also did too. They let them down, but their offense was more than qualified to carry them. And I really loved the chemistry that they had on offense.
We talked about this in the chat. Is this the last game? You know, do we see Teamu? Do we see Perez again here?
I think Tom is going to stick around, and the reason why I say that is because I just don't think he's really going to stick on an NFL roster. He's fine. I just don't think his assets really translate well to the next level. He kind of just reminds me, as I said, he's kind of a spring football lifer, in my opinion. He's meant to be playing in these kind of leagues. And look, I know that's not what players want to hear. They always want to believe they have a chance in the next level, but some guys just fit in really well with certain, styles of play and certain levels. And, the same thing goes in the CFL. There's guys who I love to watch in the CFL. I know they would never really do anything in the NFL. And I know everyone's going to argue about talent level and all that. It's not just that, it's fit. It's also what fits your skill level and what fits your assets. And for Jordan Ta'amu, I think this is the right place to be. And, he played well enough this season. He still, again, like I said, he throws a lot of picks, but I think he needs to continue to play in leagues like this. And I think he can make a decent living doing it. So I would say he could stick around.
Yeah, I think, and this is the same, and we will see more about this, obviously, with the CFL coming up here on Thursday. But yeah, like once you decide, I can make a life here and this can be whatever, and I'm going to be a part of this and not look at it as a springboard. I do think people have made whole careers and legendary careers and championship careers and just taking care of their family and living in nice spots. And, it really can be a part of it. And I think the CFL, the people that hate on who are like, oh, dude, like, we are not like, we are supportive of all of that. I think you get a lot of people like, oh, this talent level, like, man, these guys play a game they love, are able to make a whole career out of it. You get paid enough, and then they can retire and go do kind of whatever else they want to do here. As my headphones, I got 10% of my headphones. You think they'll make it to the end of the episode here? We'll see. But they can just make a whole career. But I think that's cool. I want to talk about this, and I did see this, and I want to talk about this safety that happened in the game. And Lauren says Arlington, the only team in the league to score on themselves here. Pretty wild. That was quite the wild back and forth.
That's just the comedy of errors they've had this season, right? It's just continuing to shoot themselves in the foot, and that's really what could have prevented them from winning this game. They were lucky that didn't happen. More so, it ruined the opportunity to potentially have overtime, which I know Mike was rooting for extremely hard. He wanted overtime, which we didn't get this season. That's the thing; we never got an overtime in the UFL. So, and to my knowledge, I mean, it's only happened, I think, once in the USFL, and I think it happened twice in the XFL the last few years. So this cool patented OT has not happened. And I think the big reason why is because nobody kicks PATs. So you rely on these point conversions. And I think that makes the likelihood of it happening less and less so. I think, but honestly, that's fine because you know what? You don't want players playing too many plays anyways. So either way, the overtime resolves that issue because you don't put in too many plays. And if you don't get there in the first place because no one makes the conversions, that's fine. So it kind of does it both ways. Of course, overtime is like exciting and thrilling, but you don't for me, it's not like a requirement. Like, I'm not sitting there during a football season and being like, boy, we didn't get any overtime. That's unfortunate. I know people like extra football, but I think about player longevity, and I think that's good for them not to experience that too many times because it can really be taxing to the body.
I will say, and this is such like a side note here, with with the extra point rules as they are, you do get a lot of that, like, oh, it's 6 to whatever. Like, did someone miss a field goal? Like, you do get that a lot from like the casual sitting now, which I think we're just so ingrained to, like, in the NFL, you look at 7 and 10 and you kind of know the scoring patterns. And obviously we've had a lot of scoregamis and everything this year, but I do think you get that from the casual, like, oh, 6-6. Like, man, these kickers suck. Or like, well, no, it's anyway. But yeah, I agree that you're just not prone to getting as many of that because you're out of that pattern of you go 1, 2, or 3, or someone goes for 2, and then you might never get a conversion the entire game, and then it ends up being totally off.
Oh, scoregami fanatics would have a field day if they were in this league. I wish we had more scoregami nerds in these leagues, because there's so many different combinations that can happen with all the weird conversions and all the different point variables. I think that would be awesome.
Darren, are you complimenting Andy or are you criticizing Andy? Darren's got a comment here. We'll pull that up here in a second. Let's talk here. Let's do San Antonio, because then we'll talk, I guess, the toilet bowl here at the end. We might go a few seconds over here for the wheel, but we'll try to get out of here. Another low score in the fair here. What did you make of this with the Battlehawks securing home field advantage?
Just Rusty coming out of his injury for AJ McCarron. It's really unfortunate because this offense just was not really up to the standard that it had been before he got hurt. Jacob Sailors, I wish they kind of leaned on more. This Battlehawks team, I really would love to just see run the ball, but I know they like to do these bubble screens and they like to throw out into the flats, and they also really like to get Ja'Cour Pearson going out in space. I understand that. The biggest thing, they just got to make sure that AJ stays healthy. I'm not sure if you saw, but he was having a bit of a tisk with some of the Brahmas players for aiming at his ankle, which, look, they were clean hits, okay? They were just hitting him. And, I know you don't want to get hit in sensitive areas, but, when a team knows you're hurt, I'm sorry, they're going to do things like that. I know it's not okay. People can talk about the ethicalness of it, but the Brahmas are trying to win a football game, and they know where the main points are for this team. And AJ McCarron's the engine that really keeps everything going. So, yeah, I don't like seeing other players trying to hurt other players, but I get trying to, rough a guy up a little bit when he's, not 100%. For the Brahmas, really the big problem for them was they were having more offensive inconsistencies. Chase Garbers looked really, really rusty, and then he re-injures himself. Quinn Dormady, man, I know Dormady didn't throw a pick, but he almost threw a pick like 3 different times. He really just loves to throw that ball over the middle in harm's way. So I don't know if he's really the answer for them if it gets into a playoff situation. For both these teams, the biggest thing in this whole game was that super challenge that happened when the Brahmas had the 2-point conversion, and then AJ McCarron ran over to Coach Becht and basically said, "Hey, there was an illegal man downfield. You might want to look into that." And they reviewed it, and it came off the board. And good for him noticing that, because there's a lot of chaos going on in that moment. That's a huge plus for them to be able to notice that. And then the missed field goal at the end, obviously. They hosted that playoff game by the skin of their teeth. So Battlehawks survive again. They've had some good luck after that Michigan loss they had earlier this year. I know they also had the close loss to the Stallions, but they managed to win some of these very critical close games this year that they needed to. And now they get to host their playoff game, but they've got a lot to fix on offense. There's a lot of things they need to clean up if they're going to be able to have dreams of hosting the championship game.
Couple things. Because Max was texting me like, if destroying is on this team, the Brahmas also probably are not in the playoffs. Didn't the Brahmas miss last year? Wasn't it the missed field goal kick from the guy that had done the punt block and all that? Right? This is 18 different leagues ago. But the Brahmas missed. I believe the Brahmas missed the playoffs from a missed field goal last year as well. So I think that's the chemistry coming back around.
They did, and that's the thing. They've had a lot of kicking issues themselves. That's the thing. You got to have a reliable kicker. Now, even then, there are kickers you think that really are fantastic, like Jake Bates, but there's been other guys who've made more of their field goals this season. So for me, it's it's not something you want your season to come down to, obviously, but that's just how it's kind of crumbled. And you might see that this weekend. I think we're going to be seeing some really critical late minute situations. I think both these games are going to be really good.
All right, so we're going to do the last. We're going to talk toilet bowl here. I know we did a little bit off the top. Comment on the video, jersey, if you, or excuse me, too many giveaways. Comment on the video, tickets. If you want to be in the tickets, you can join the channel. I'm looking, I don't have any new members, but we can join the channel, get an extra entry. We have a couple of super chats that I wrote down already, but super chat, join the channel here. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll check that, but we'll give it away here. We'll probably go like 2-3 minutes over the top of the hour, but make sure, like I said, comment, because we got to give it away. So I hope there's more than one person on this, because Chris was very excited for all that stuff. Lauren's invested here, so we got at least one on here. So let me know, but comment on the video, tickets. We're giving them away here in less than 10 minutes. So Andy, what did you make of this? Philip doesn't like us calling it the toilet bowl, but that's kind of what it was. What do you make?
I mean, as I said at the top, I think it's good that Memphis was able to show that, in my opinion, that they were slightly better than Houston. I know they weren't a very good team this year, but Houston to me was the dog of the league. And I really wish that it ended up better for them, but there was just no identity in this game for them as far as offensively, defensively. Again, I just don't know really what they hang their hat on going forward. For me, it wasn't so much the game, but there was something else that I really wanted to touch on here was Joel Klatt. First of all, for him to try and put in as much enthusiasm as he did in calling a game like this, tremendous credit to him. He really I feel like he cares about these leagues. He really does. And I really appreciate that. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person. You saw me shake his hand at the USFL opening game with Birmingham and the Generals. And just a really nice guy, really nice down to earth guy. He took time to talk to me. He had no reason, he didn't owe me anything. He didn't have to, but just really, really pleasurable guy to talk to. And for me, I think one of the biggest things I took away from this, he was talking about this, it was in the third or fourth quarter, was Reed Sinnett was on audio talking about like, oh, make sure if my last pass I have, it's not like an interception. I don't know if Reed Sinnett's talking about like retirement, but then it launched Joel Klatt into this whole thing about saying, you just never know when it's the last time. And for some of these guys, he goes, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but this is going to be the last time for some of these guys. And for me, that just kind of brings home this whole thing for me. It's just like, look, this is not given. This is earned. And this is something that I think you have to be grateful that you have as a player, as somebody involved in the league, as someone who covers these leagues like we do. I really appreciate the ability to be able to talk about these leagues. I know, yes, do I complain a lot about certain things? Yes, but I want things to be better because I want these things to survive, and I want these guys to have a chance to finish out their careers and be able to continue to play games like this and be able to just, go play the game they love. I really do appreciate that, and I'm glad that, someone like Joel Klatt was able to say that on air. I think he really gets it. I really do, and I want to see more of that, that level of appreciation for these things. I want to see more of that. I really just kind of took that from the whole thing. And it was like it's a relatively meaningless game. And that is still a gem that I was able to find in the viewership experience.
Well, I'm sure they're like, what the hell are we going to talk about here for 3 hours? But it's better than the over under on the ESPN stuff. I mean, I see that even this weekend watching. I mean, that's all that they talk about on there. There's no storytelling or player trying to get to know, give any sort of insights at all. I mean, it's really crazy on that. Guys, make sure you comment. I got like 6-7 people on here. So make sure you comment tickets here before we get out of here. Tickets. This too free. I mean, this is like a $300 value here, Andy. But yeah, we talked that, Showboats, all that. Anything else from these two teams you want to make sure we touch on?
As I said on Sunday, let's send these teams both out to the pastures because that's where they basically belong for the rest of the year.
It's tough. I mean, I don't even know if the Houston team was good, if they would have turned the attendance around, but it's certainly, I mean, this is kind of, it's the worst for that. And it's the worst that both of these teams are two of the weakest in terms of attendance. And obviously that doesn't help at all either, but it's overall just not a good situation for these teams. I don't think I have the UFL Center tweet up here anymore with all that go back and forth, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get excited about that. I mean, Arlington, I thought did a decent enough job. when we were there. I know there was a lot more tickets distributed, but hey, at least they were buying them earlier in the season and getting season tickets and all that.
Yeah. No, like I said, these markets, both of these have a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done.
Philip says, how do you think I feel, guys? Well, Phil, I told you 6 months ago. I said, get on to something. I'm Roughnecks for life, man. Well, here you go. You could have been the Brahma. Like I said, comment. I got 2 comments here. Comment tickets if you want that. We're gonna do that and get out of here. Darren that said, Andy channeling Jim Barker. The guy's a spring football guy, can't make it to the NFL. Barker described the UFL as a second-rate 4-down league. Also describes the CFL as second-rate 3-down league. Hey.
I don't know where I said that, but you go ahead and pick through my comments and tell me, Mr. Darren, and we'll have a conversation, because I have not said that whatsoever. Maybe you can be workmanlike and actually find that comment. So how about that?
No, that's clear. Chris here says, I think the event staffs are overworked, underpaid, not looking to put in extra effort, even with fans offering to help out. Unfortunately, hopefully it improves next season. And I think we're going to have a big deep dive going into this at the end of the season. Any thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point there by Christopher. I wish that they had, more staffing at some of these games. I've been to a handful of them, and I've just noticed there's not nearly enough people on hand. But again, if they know that they're not going to get the number of people attendance wise, I don't think they're going to let that. They don't need to employ more staffing if they don't need it, right? They're not going to overstaff. So for me, I agree with you. I wish more people. I wish more people were on staff, but when they have the same number of levels, in terms of the fan attendance and everybody who actually shows up, they're going to continue with that thought process of, well, we don't need a staff because who's showing up. So there's a push and a shove that needs to happen here if they're going to be able to actually give more resources for the fans.
Yeah, and then we had here, where was they were talking about Danucci to the Brahmas. Danucci's already said, Danucci to Memphis. Danucci's done. He said he's not interested in that. He wants to own the UFL team. I don't think he necessarily wants to play in one.
He did mention that. We talked about that last week. He's more interested in sort of being the manager as opposed to not really playing in any of these leagues. He had his fun. I think he enjoyed it. He used it as a launch pad to get into the NFL, and that's fine. Again, if there's guys who want that and they want that one-time experience, I have no problem with that. I just wouldn't harp on that so much if I was the league itself. I would just celebrate their time as they were in the league, but not trying to say, hey, everyone, use this as the base of operations before you go to the NFL. It's like, I think you just need to talk about the time that they spend in the league.
All right, here we go. This is going to be it. This is your last chance here. Comment tickets. We're going to give it away. Andy, are you excited? The live giveaway on the podcast.
I want to know how fast this thing spins. That's really my curiosity.
It's really cool. So, guys, yeah, so make sure you're subscribed. Comment tickets. I'll add you. Otherwise, we're going here. I appreciate it. And then, like I said, check out the video. But we still have the Silvers jersey to give away. Speaking of the Dragons, so we'll figure that out. If that's not claimed, Andy, I do all this, and then it's like claim the prizes or be available. All right, here we go. We got however many on here. We've doubled up for all the other stuff. And if you win, email the markcastpodcast@gmail.com. Give me your, because then I'll e-transfer you these, so I don't have to ship anything out. So email the markcastpodcast@gmail.com. Here we go. Sandra is the winner. Sandra, make sure you email the markcastpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, we're going to have one more opportunity. We got to do it this week. I think we might have to do it before the podcast just because the game's coming up. But I think the Silvers jersey, and then we'll do the tickets. But make sure you're subscribed, and then we're going to do 4,000. We're going to do season tickets for next year. So tell your mom, tell your friend, tell your neighbor, tell anyone else. Andy, anything else before we get out of here? We're over time here, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Reed. Thank you for your patience as always. Notification to everybody else. I will not be here on Monday for the recap. I will not be available. I will be on vacation. And so I will be watching the games. Don't make fuss about that. But you can expect me to be in St. Louis the next time I see you in person. And I will be there in all its glory to be able to cover that game with you. I cannot wait. But I'm going to go try and tan first. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody who's watched and commented this season. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to coming back for the championship game. So don't have too much fun without me, Reed.
Yeah, we'll figure that. I'll figure that. We'll do something next week. I got this like I have my friend, like, we're going to the Mariners are playing Boston in like the end of July. He's like, have you figured out what you're bringing to Boston yet? I'm like, no, I know it's June. Oh, here we go. Abdul's got a good idea. Will there be a recap Monday? I could just post the full game highlights. We don't even need to do a show. We can just post all that stuff. Like I said, guys, yeah, Christina, here's the email. Make sure you do that. And then we appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. Let me get, where the heck's my outro? We'll get out of here. See you guys next week.